Welcome to evo-genesis. I'm your host, Evo. Yeah, I just decided to go with that, so I'll be reviewing Set Radio Hd for the PS3, also available for the Xbox. And I checked it myself. You can still download this if you have a Series X or Series S. Set Radio was originally released for the Sega Dreamcast. I just went with the PS3 port, well, because that second analog for camera control really does help a lot. The Dreamcast is a system I was lucky enough to get on $99.99. Thanks, Mom. Once again, there will be spoilers. Put them towards the end of the video. There'll be a warning. So let's go. Get on to review.
Set Radio!
Set Radio was first released in Japan on June 29, 2000. It was released as Jet Grind Radio in North America on October 31st, 2000. Hey, Halloween. Spooky. No, it isn't. Set Radio was also released in PAL territories on November 24th, 2000. Set Radio was developed by Smilebit. Smilebit was a Sega studio originally made up of former Team Andromeda staff. Yeah, so that means for most of the team, their last project was Panzer Dragoon Saga.
What?
I was pretty surprised to learn that. Set Radio was directed by Masayoshi Kikuchi. This was his first time as a director. Original ideas for Set Radio were an adventure game or an RPG. Sega wasn't satisfied by either. He was, however, able to come up with something everyone would be happy with. The art was done by Ryuta Ueda. The visual style of Set Radio was inspired by Japanese pop culture. Ueda wanted to do something cool, and one inspiration was an early showing of Parappa the Rappa, noting that it itself was inspired by pop culture, creating something deliberately in contrast to the Panzer Dragoon games. Honestly, this was the reason that the game was turning so many heads when it was shown. The amazing art combined with cel shading was so unlike anything we'd ever seen before. Music was composed by Hideki Naganuma. This is such a great soundtrack. Produced to be as close to the style of the game as possible, Hideki Naganuma nailed it. Naganuma says his two favorite projects in his career are Set Radio and its sequel Set Radio Future. The soundtrack also features licensed music. One that caught me off guard was a remix of Dragula by Rob Zombie. I forgot that this song was everywhere back then. And I just have to mention that crazy Japanese commercial. In Set Radio, you play as a member of the GGs. The GGs are a crew of graffiti artists. The leader is Beat, and the first two members are Gum and Tab. These Rudies, as they're called, all wear magnetic inline skates. The rival Rudies are the robotic machine crew, the Noise Tanks, three dudes in monster masks, known as Poison Jam, and the broken-hearted girls looking to do some breaking themselves are the Shock Masters. Whoops, I meant the Love Shockers. They all have their territory in Tokyo Hotel, and they all listen to the insanely animated DJ Professor K's pirate radio station, Set Radio.
Hey out there, this is Tokyo's very own #1 pirate power station, Set Radio!
Hot on the tails of these vandals is the police force led by Captain Onishima. They'll be using all of their resources to take the Rudies down. Wait, that's a little excessive, don't you think? Anyway, the game starts with a short tutorial with Gum and Tab. There aren't a lot of controls to learn. X-ray, jump, R2 or the right trigger boosts your speed while skating, and L2 and the left trigger double as centering the camera and spray painting. Controlling your character feels a little awkward at first, but as long as you stick with it, the game will start to feel more smooth. One extremely great addition to the HD port is being able to control the camera with the right stick. The camera on the Dreamcast original was pretty hard to deal with. Grinding is pretty simple. Line up your jump to land on a rail and a grind will start. One issue I have with grinding is there's no way to give yourself a boost if you're grinding too slowly. After the tutorial, you're back in the GG's hideout. From here you can change your graffiti, listen to music, check leaderboards. They weren't available in the PS3 version. You can also save here, access options, and select the streets to play through story missions and complete challenges. In the first story mission, the Love Shockers are invading the GG's turf. Now it's time to cover that mess up. Red arrows appear to show what you can tag. In later stages there are green arrows. These help boost your score. There are 3 graffiti sizes: small, medium, and large. Small graffiti spots are quick 1 sprays. Medium tags start a minigame requiring you to follow the prompts on screen with the left analog. Large graffiti arrows need much more spray paint, and that minigame goes a lot longer. Failing to complete any sprays costs 1 spray paint. Cans can be found in multiple areas around stages. Yellow spray paint cans are worth 1, blue are 5, and red cans refill your health by some. Speaking of graffiti, you can unlock more by finding graffiti souls scattered around stages. You can also make your own graffiti. Midway through my first playthrough, I created some true masterpieces. I call this one Smiling in Adversity. And this is evo-genesis branding, that is the title. The more you tag, the more enemies will show up. It starts off with Captain Onishima. He's the main antagonist for the first half of the game. He shoots on sight, but he's not so hard. Police start off easy with clubs. Then they launch gas grenades. Before you know it, you'll be running from attack choppers. Man, this city hates graffiti. But I'd be pretty annoyed with YouTube ads spray painted all over my city too. Then the Rikaku group shows up. This is the point that the enemies become much more difficult. I honestly thought they were Yakuza when I first played the game. Actually, they own the police force, and they probably are. You'll be dealing with exploding cars next to graffiti arrows, dudes with electricity that electrify the rails and such that you use to grind on. The biggest pain of the Rikaku group, though, are the jetpack squads. They fly and they have machine guns, so yeah, they're a pain. I found the best way to deal with these enemies is to learn the map and tag the more difficult graffiti arrows first. This was definitely a huge help on Grind Square. I'll talk more about Bantam Street and Grind Square later. If you can sneak up on them, enemies with a green arrow can be defeated by spraying them. The attack choppers can be defeated by spraying the cockpit windshield. Most of the time, you'll be on the run though. Getting someplace that enemies can't follow you on foot is how you get away. Now back to the rival Rudies. At different points in the story, you'll battle other crews in a game of tag. You chase after them and spray them 10 times each on the back. This is where L2 or the left trigger doubling as centering the camera and spraying it becomes a problem. It's annoying but not a huge issue. I just really wish this was something fixed in the port though. After completing certain missions, there will be a number of weirdos peeking in your window. This is how you earn new members of the GGs. They'll challenge you to either pull off the same tricks they do, or they'll challenge you to a race. First to get to the goal and spray the arrow wins. You end up with a unique and colorful motley crew. I did end up playing as every character I unlocked. There are secret characters too. I, however, wasn't good enough to unlock any of them. Each character has their strengths and weaknesses. For instance, of all my characters, this Squidward looking dude could hold more spray paint than anyone else.
You know it.
The areas you skate around in are massive. At the beginning, I'll just be playing small portions of each part of the city. Later, however, you'll have to take some time to learn the maps. For the last stages, you'll really want to plan out your run. Now, 2 areas added to the North American and PAL releases are Grind Square and Bantam Street. These 2 areas are in Grind City and not in Tokyo-to. Bantam Street isn't too bad, but I really didn't like Grind Square. You can tell that these 2 areas have a different feel from the rest of the game. It's also important to know that the difficulty is ramped up from Grind City and on. Graphically, Jet Set Radio has aged incredibly well. The bright and colorful art style together with the cel-shaded graphics give this game a unique cartoon look. While graphics don't always matter, they're a very big part of the appeal of the game. It draws you in with its sense of style, and then hooks you with its fun gameplay. Little touches like enemies holding on to you, and short animations of police and Rikaku getting frustrated that you got away, really help add to the charm of this game. It's also cool how much different stages look from day and night. A mission on a bright and sunny day looks completely different in the dark with neon lights illuminating Tokyo-to. This game's soundtrack is also a huge part of the game. Gameplay, style, and music come together perfectly. The soundtrack isn't only perfect for the game, it's also great to listen to. Hideki Naganuma filled songs with nonsensical vocals that truly match Jet Set Radio. Naganuma was also very involved with selecting licensed tracks. One song on the soundtrack is from Richard Jacques. He's done music for quite a few Sega games. The reason I recognize his name though is because he composed the soundtrack for Sonic R. I remember playing Sonic R at a Toys R Us kiosk when I was a kid. The game sucked, but I was a fan of the soundtrack instantly. And for some reason I slipped Sonic R into a Jet Set Radio video. Alright, time to get to the story. So yeah, this is that spoiler warning I talked about earlier. The Rudies run around Tokyo-to spray painting graffiti as a way of expressing themselves. The Metropolitan Government and the Rikaku Group combined their efforts and created the 21st Century Project. Basically, it's made things really difficult for the Rudies in Tokyo-to. It's actually Tokyo, they even say it in the intro. After defeating the different rival Rudies, they drop record pieces. These are pieces of a record called the Devil's Contract. This record has the power to summon a demon. You learn this from Combo and Cube. They're both from Grind City. They came to Tokyo to join the GGs and asked them to help their friend Coin. Coin was taken by the Rikaku Group. Goji Rikaku is the head of the Rikaku Group business conglomerate. He wants to use the Devil's Contract to summon that demon. Goji Rikaku seemed to have an interest in Coin's record collection. That's basically the story in a nutshell, other than the ending, but I'll get there. DJ Professor K tells most of the story, other than Combo who tells his story in a cutscene. None of the other GGs really get any dialogue. The most interaction between the GGs happen when Combo and Cube show up. Honestly, I felt like the story was just there. The ending really left me scratching my head. The final boss is Goju Rikaku and his demon rhinoceros. Whoa, he's got this giant turntable. Way to mix your job with your passion, man. Overall, it's not very difficult. There are 4 tags you have to make. 2 are easy, all you have to do is grind across to them. The other 2 have spinning platforms, which are a bit of a challenge. I fell multiple times on my first playthrough. The rhino shows up to stop you from spray painting. I noticed the temporary invulnerability you get after being hit makes this a breeze. After tagging 4 platforms, the rhino gets destroyed and breaks Goju's turntable. Last up, spray paint the top of his head and he's defeated. Now in the ending, they say the devil's contract was a fake. So what the hell was this thing then? They all live happily ever after, spray painting cars, streets, and city buses, except for Coin. They said he was too far gone to be saved. When you beat the game, you can start over with all the GGs you've unlocked. Overall, Jet Set Radio is a fun game with great style and an amazing soundtrack. Controls take some getting used to, but stick with it and you'll be treated to a truly unique experience.
Do you have any memories of Jet Set Radio? If you do, please leave it down in the comments. This is definitely a game I loved playing as a kid myself. Once again, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I really do appreciate it. Please like if you liked it. Please subscribe. Peace!